When America was training jihadi people to fight against them and giving them weapons, they would not have imagined even in their wildest dreams that one day the people they trained would become terrorists and create a scene of destruction in their own country. The sky is all around destruction and people running away from the chaos, a scene of fear on every face and hatred against terrorism in every heart. This picture is not of any battlefield but of the shining city of New York, which looked something like this on the morning of 9/11. 22 years ago, on September 11th, there was a terrorist attack on America which changed a lot for America and the world in 102 minutes. 3,000 people were killed in one stroke, more than 6,000 were injured, and this attack left such a wound. After this, America started a war against terrorism in the world which lasted for years. One more year went on. And under the cover of this war, if countries like Afghanistan and Iraq were also ruined, then what was the 9/11 attack? Why was this 9/11 attack on such a big superpower, America? After all, how was this attack carried out, and who was actually responsible for this attack? The day of 11th September 2001 in America started like any other day. It was morning time, and people were going to work. Hustle and bustle in the city. President George W. Bush was attending a program at a school in Florida, but a series of strange events began when at about 8:46 a.m. an American Airlines plane crashed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center. Plan. The plane was American Airlines Flight 11, which took off from Logan International Airport, Boston to Los Angeles at 8 o'clock in the morning, but 15 minutes after the flight took off, the plane was hijacked by 5 hijackers who boarded the plane in the guise of normal passengers. One of these 5 jackets was Mohammed Atta, who, like the pilot, was a 35-year-old citizen of Egypt, and had entered the cockpit of the plane with his companions and took control of the plane from the pilot. The plane turned towards the World Trade Center, and in front of the people the plane crashed into the World Trade Center. A terrible fire broke out in the North Tower and smoke spread all around. During this time, the President of America was about to start a conversation with a student in the elementary school class, but then White House staff Andrew Hilkard came and told George Bush. They came and told George Bush that a small engine plane had just crashed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center. Even after hearing this news, he sat quietly with the children because they got that there was an accident and perhaps the pilot might have had a heart attack. So the president, while the rescue operation was still going on in the North Tower of the World Trade Center, 17 minutes later another airplane collided with the second tower of World Trade Center at full speed. The airplane was United Airlines Flight 175, which took off at 8:14 a.m. But just 28 minutes after takeoff, it was intercepted by 5 hijackers who killed the pilot and took control of the airplane and crashed it into the World Trade Center towers. Bush was doing a reading exercise with students. He remained sitting in the class and continued the reading exercise. On the other hand, in these 7 minutes a lot changed for America. People had not yet emerged from the crash. Many people were killed, and an atmosphere of fear and panic spread. Within these 7 minutes the whole world came to know that 2 planes had crashed into America's tallest building, the World Trade Center. Meanwhile, another big news came that 2 more airplanes have been hijacked. One was American Airlines Flight 77, and the other was United Airlines Flight 93. Flight 77 took off from Washington International Airport for Los Angeles, but at 8:54 a.m. the plane changed its course. There were also 5 hijackers present who forcibly entered the cockpit about 31 minutes after takeoff. The second Flight 93 departed from New Jersey for California and was carrying 4 hijackers. Both these flights changed their destination to America's capital, Washington, D.C. The Pentagon was the headquarters of the U.S. Defense Department, just a short distance from Washington. These were very important buildings for the Air Force, and unfortunately these buildings were their next target on the radar of the hijackers. Hence Flight 77 was diverted towards the Pentagon building, and at 9:37 a.m. the plan was to cross the Pentagon building or terror on America. This was the 3rd fatal attack of the hijackers, from which it was clear that all this was the result of a big terrorist conspiracy, hence all All airports were shut down. The airlines that had taken off were ordered to land at nearest airport on one hand where the administration and while the rescue forces were trying to control the situation became worse for America when at 9:59 a.m. due to the terrible fire that broke out in the tower along with the World Trade Center, the entire building collapsed. The American people were watching this entire disaster unfold in front of them. There was a cloud of death and smoke all around. Many people have been killed. On the hijacked flight, the passengers realized that they were under attack and tried to fight back. Everyone felt that this plane would again be crashed on some iconic building of America to stop it. Many passengers started fighting with hijackers. According to FBI, about 37 phone calls were made from Flight 93 which were placed behind the seats. Meanwhile, the people sitting in the administration were also afraid of the fourth hijacked plane. This question raised everyone's mind as to which building would be the next target of the attackers. Troubled, but they were targeting America's important and iconic buildings. Therefore, it was assumed that their next target could be the White House or the United States Capitol. The White House, the seat of that president, and the United States Capitol federal government. In such a situation, an attack on them was like shaking the roots of a superpower, but this does not happen. In fact, the effect of the rebellion and courage of the passengers sitting in the airplane was that even before reaching its target, the plane crashed in Pennsylvania fields. All passengers on the plane were killed, but another major accident was averted and many lives were saved. The North Tower of the World Trade Center also burned to the ground in the fire. A huge plume of smoke covered the sky over New York City. Most of the people trapped inside were killed, and 911 called. That dreadful morning became the day of death when America lost about 3,000 of its people in one stroke and 6,000 people got injured. It became the deadliest terrorist attack on American soil till date, which was a threat to its intelligence agency. Also proved to be a big failure. Somewhere America could not save themselves from the flames of Islamic Jihad and Osama bin Laden succeeded in his plans. The atmosphere of terror in America had become so intense that the president was forced to be further bound. It was in everyone's mind that the president and all the president's officials were in the flight for almost 8 hours in case the White House became the next target. They felt that there was so much uncertainty in America that air was the only safe place. 9/11 was an incident of superpower America, amidst which the Cold War had been sown many years ago. This story started from Afghanistan in 1979 where America started supporting Mujahideen fighters to remove it from Afghanistan, and gave birth to a terrorist group which was going to become the biggest headache for America. The history of Afghanistan has always been bloody. The people here kept fighting for their freedom. In 1919, Afghanistan got freedom from the indirect rule of the British. In fact, after the Second Anglo-Afghan War, the British had controlled the foreign affairs of Afghanistan, but after the Third War, Afghanistan got complete freedom from any kind of restriction from the British. After this independence, Afghanistan accepted Amanullah Khan himself, proved him as king. Amanullah Khan is very liberal, progressive. In 1926, he abolished the emirate from Afghanistan and established a democratic monarchy in Afghanistan, and now he started being called king. For the first time during his time, women were allowed to go to school and college. This was the first time that liberty, openness and freedom were coming in the society of Afghanistan, but Amanullah Khan could not play a role in Afghanistan for long because Amanullah Khan was taking Afghanistan towards Western modernization, which was a thing which some Islamic tribes there were not liking it at all, especially the people there were completely disgusted with the liberalization of women. Meanwhile, in 1928, Amanullah Khan had gone to Europe, taking advantage of which a fanatic leader named Habibullah Khalkhani took advantage of the absence of the royal army, and along with him, Amanullah Khan was arrested and sent to exile. In 1933, Zahir Shah becomes the king of Afghanistan, and remains the king of Afghanistan for the next 40 years. During his 40 years of rule, Afghanistan remains quite stable, and Afghanistan also progresses a lot. In 1973, when Zahir Shah was on a foreign trip, his own nephew Mohammad Daoud Khan, with the support of military and his communist and leftist friends, did a great job and snatched his chair. After this, Zahir Shah had to flee the country. From here in Afghanistan there was an Iraq shift. Daoud Khan was a person with communist ideology and had very good relations with him. Daoud Khan was also the military head of Afghanistan for a long time, and had been training Afghan soldiers since his time. Apart from this, it had also made a huge investment in Afghanistan to expand its reach in South Asia. Now when Daoud Khan's government came, he openly attacked them. Throated. With this, Daoud Khan established the Republic of Afghanistan and himself became the president of Afghanistan. Daoud Khan took its support and formed his own government, but in order to liberalize Afghanistan and avoid making it a target of Cold War, it allied with America. They also started making relations, but this thing was now beginning to bother him, and the Communist Party of Afghanistan also started getting angry with Daoud Khan. Communist Party of Afghanistan People's Democratic Party of Afghanistan attacked Daoud Khan's royal palace on this issue and killed him along with his entire family. After this, Noor Mohammad Tariqi becomes the president of this country, but as happened with Daoud Khan, the same incident happened with Tariqi also. People of his own party made him rule. Hafizullah Amin was behind the assassination in 1978, who was the deputy of Afghanistan at that time. Ut was PM. USSR had good relations with him and had already got the back government assassinated on him. So how was USSR going to keep quiet on that too? USSR did not want to let Afghanistan out of his clutches at any cost, and that is why on 24 December 1979 he was attacked. Landed hundreds of its fighter jets and thousands of soldiers in Kabul. Although USSR got an easy victory in Kabul. And with that, USSR assassinated PM Amin and declared Babrak Karmal the new president of the country. But after this, 25,000 of USSR soldiers did not return because they believed that the communist government would be installed in the entire Afghanistan. On the other hand, Mujahideen had kept jihadi in mind. They saw it as a threat to Islam, and they were ready to give it a complete fight. This attack was initially based on Afghanistan, which was against the Islamic Mujahideen. Quick. Soon Pakistan, China and the countries of the Middle East also came together with the Mujahideen so that they could be given a tough fight and they could be expelled from Afghanistan. Mujahids were supporting both Pakistan, and especially in this jihadi war, so that it could be removed. The feud between the two powers supporting pocket communist and Islamic ideologies had now begun in Afghanistan. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia started giving a lot of funding to the Mujahideen. On the other hand, Pakistan also started helping the Mujahideen group in every way, so now the Islamic Mujahideen in Afghanistan rebelled against the Soviets. At the same time, due to the Cold War, America along with South Asia wanted to reduce the influence of the Soviet Union, and on the other hand, due to the Soviet influence in Vietnam and Korea, America suffered a lot of damage. Whose opportunity America got in the Soviet-Afghan army. In such a situation, America started supporting the rebellion taking place in the name of religion in Afghanistan. America not only influenced Afghan fighters to become refugees in neighboring countries like Pakistan, but also promoted Soviet-Afghan fighters as a fight for Islam. From all the Islamic countries, America started inciting Islamic boys to join the so-called Holy War of Afghanistan and started giving them huge amount of arms, money and intelligence support, and this was the beginning of the jihadi movement, which brought instability in Afghanistan. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia, which was funding Islamic countries to promote Islam, became afraid that if that level of influence spread to other Arab countries, it would destroy the religion of Islam. Islamic boys from the country joined Mujahideen militants, and rich Islamic families started funding these militants. One of them was Osama bin Laden, who had only one wish: that Sharia law should be implemented in entire Islamic countries and the matters between Islamic countries should be resolved among themselves through the law of Quran, and there should be no interference from anyone else. Even if that superpower was America, USSR finally officially withdrew from this war in Afghanistan on May 15, 1988, but by then America too was no longer in good relations with Afghanistan and the Mujahideen, who were still fighting against America. Osama bin Laden believed that there was no need for him to interfere in Gulf War, and after his attack on Iran, Laden's hatred towards him increased even more. In 2002, the published letter to America, Pakistan to fully support the Mujahideen militants due to his radical Islamic thinking. For this reason, Osama bin Laden also created Al-Qaeda organization, whose objective was to bring global Islamist revolution and continue jihad. Although earlier their target was to oust the Soviet Union and the communist government from Afghanistan, but in 1989, when the Soviet Union exited Afghanistan with a shameful defeat, Osama bin Laden's attention shifted towards Iraq. When America attacked Iraq in 1991, Osama bin Laden took it as an attack on the religion of Islam. This also happened because bin Laden did not like America's increasing presence and influence in Muslim countries. In such a situation, Osama bin Laden became anti-America. Earlier, Osama bin Laden was fighting against the Soviet Union along with America. Now he has taken his stand against it. Till now the radical Islam group Taliban had formed its government in Afghanistan, hence Osama bin Laden came to Afghanistan, and by making this country the base of al-Qaeda, he issued a fatwa against America in 1996 to remove his army from Saudi Arabia. America has been operating its military base in Saudi Arabia since the Girls' War. Bin Laden also issued a similar fatwa against America in 1998, and under this to take revenge from America, on August 7, 1998 bin Laden bombed the American embassy in East Africa, in which more than 200 people were killed. During this, bombs were dropped in Nairobi, Kenya and Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. It was from here that Osama bin Laden got such motivation to cause destruction in America. Did this terrorist, sitting in Afghanistan, plan 9/11's dark day in America's history? The immediate effect of this attack was that the entire attack united America and people united on one side and carried out the rescue operation and saved people's lives. At 8:30 that night, President George W. Bush, while addressing the nation, made it clear that there was no difference between those who were terrorists and those who harbored. This attack not only devastated the lives of ordinary Americans but also filled people with a sense of justice and anger. Osama bin Laden was soon declared the member of the terrorist organization al-Qaeda organization, which is running in Afghanistan. After this, the American president asked the Taliban to hand over Osama bin Laden to America. But then the Taliban rejected America's offer, and when America was asked for proof, it started a war against terrorism in its support. Network countries also supported America. This war was named War on Terror, which was started from Afghanistan. On October 7, 2001, America and its leaders entered Afghanistan. In Afghanistan, America not only targeted al-Qaeda targets but also pushed back Taliban. In its investigation, America also got many such video tips which made it clear that the 9/11 attacks by Osama bin Laden. FBI also found in its investigation that the 19 militants who hijacked the plane were trained by Osama bin Laden and al-Qaeda themselves, and then gradually they were sent to our country in small groups. Some of them had also taken training in flying planes, and all of them were living in America with legal documentation. Then on October 26, the American Congress passed a Patriot Act whose purpose was to catch the terrorists of 9/11. It gave them the power to punish anyone who is under suspect for terrorism. The bill passed with full support to stop terrorism. On the other hand, to find Osama bin Laden in Afghanistan and destroy al-Qaeda network, America spent a lot of money. Along with a big army and the best military, although in front of America and America's military faced the possibility of dealing with many terrorists, America also started its military operation in Iraq and continued the war there for many years. 9/11 attack was not only a terrorist attack, but it was also a slap on the face of the world's best intelligence agency, that how the secret plan was done right under the nose of CIA and FBI. When the report was submitted after 2 years, it was found that the biggest failure in the attack was CIA, who already knew that in year 2000. Nawab al-Hashmi and Khalid al-Wahid were militants. Was also tracking when both these operators went to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia to attend the terrorist summit meeting. But neither the information about these two terrorist suspects was given to FBI, nor did they add them to the watch list of the State Department. Due to this, the hijackers easily entered America with their real IDs and were in America for many days. Hijackers kept roaming like ordinary people, and then hijackers carried out such a big terrorist attack in broad daylight. In 2011, America was successful in capturing Osama bin Laden. In 2011, his Navy SEALs team locked Osama bin Laden near Pakistan, and he was killed in an operation. The United States conducted this operation to kill the leader. The death of the terrorist became a big victory for America against terrorism, but the impact of 9/11 on the American citizens was long-lasting. America not only invaded Afghanistan but also conducted military operations in Iraq. Apart from this, Islamophobia increased in Western countries, especially America. Muslim citizens and South Asians had to suffer, against whom crimes and discrimination started increasing rapidly in America. Muslims living in America were not only discriminated against, but in many places action was also taken against them. Even the Indian living in America, many times Americans started thinking them as Muslims and killing innocent Indian. The growing fear among the American public gave rise to such extremism against Muslims, due to which Muslims were put in jail at many places and beaten up on a large scale. Human rights violations continued to increase. This resulted in more people becoming frustrated and angry at the discrimination and started adopting the path of terrorism. Although America's revenge for 9/11 was taken by killing Osama bin Laden, but at the cost of it, Afghanistan became even more unstable and Afghanistan became only a battlefield which is today ruled by the Taliban.